Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this week's weekly education session for Wednesday, the 5th of August for 2015. Certainly the year has been flying through and not without its challenges. We've had periods where the market's been very good at the beginning of the year, but of late, probably the last 2 to 3 months, it's been a little bit more difficult. And I thought today was an opportune time to discuss, to take a step back, if you like, and think about where we've come from in terms of our education, in terms of our knowledge, our experience in the market, whether this is your first year, second year, fifth year, or whether you've been doing it for 20 years plus. I think it makes sense to think about what we've been setting out to achieve, how we've been tackling our journey along the way. So first and foremost, our disclaimer, and the content of today's presentation or any other Elite Traders Club material does not constitute a recommendation, nor does it take into account your investment objectives, your financial situation, or particular needs. So please, before making an investing decision based on the general advice presented in any of our presentations, please consider whether it's appropriate in light of your current financial circumstances. All right, the topic for today, having a little bit of a recap, a review of our progress to this point. In the beginning, when we first started, what was it that got us interested in the markets? The reasons behind that. Our first steps that we took when we first started learning. Then the next section there, I'm just going to discuss a different way of thinking. Obviously, as being members of the Elite Traders Club, a lot of clients, when they first start off, are presented with a different way of thinking, which is a bit of a challenge. And it's like anything, whenever you learn something new, there's always a few obstacles that you've got to overcome. And the main one for investors and traders is really just approaching a different line of thought, a different set of reasoning, if you like. They're going to talk a little bit about application, persistence, patience, and really putting all that together as part of a broader context, and then a little bit of a wrap-up discussion about progress as well. So back to the beginning. A lot of you at some stage would have started your association with Elite Wealth, or prior to that the Australian Stock Report, or whoever else it may have been that you were associated with, by attending an information session of some sort. Now in the past we've run what we've called expos, things like what's hot and what's not, as you might recall. And part of your, I guess, your endeavour to learn a little bit more about the markets, you may have come along to one of those particular sessions and heard a number of people speak. We've had lots of different speakers over the years, and one of the key themes, I guess, from a company's point of view, is just to get the audience thinking a little bit about where they currently are in terms of their level of education, their experience in the markets, and to try and see whether people really do have an understanding of the importance of risk management in the markets. Certainly after the GFC, we had lots and lots of people attending our sessions as a result of, I guess, really people not having adequate skills or not knowing how to manage their investments properly. So a lot of clients or first-time visitors to expos, etc., a lot of people would come away at least thinking perhaps that there might be something else to investing compared to what their traditional methods had been. Along the way as well, a lot of people starting to see, look, perhaps there is some opportunities out there that they're not taking advantage of because they perhaps didn't either have the right set of skills, they didn't have the right set of education. Very importantly, a lot of people wouldn't have had trading plans and perhaps realised that there was a lot more to learn than what they had up to this point in time. So as humans, we're creatures of habits, and old habits tend to stick pretty hard. So it does require us to undergo a bit of a change in mindset. The first steps, obviously, from then, if you've been engaged to a certain level where you're really perhaps excited about the prospects or inquisitive, is from then to participate in a workshop. And we've run lots of different workshops. So the example here is the Trading Plan Plus workshop, but Jeff Saffer also runs a workshop for his elite investors. We've run different workshops before on different markets. Um, and really the idea there is just to provide some backgrounds about the markets using different strategies. Now, the Trading Plan Plus workshop is obviously a technical-based workshop, excuse me. And from that point of view, really just teaching some basic technical skills, but really importantly, having a bit of a think about those technical skills and what they're actually based on. So all the information that's in the background that presents itself on a chart. So we spend a couple of days at a workshop there, and the slide there on the screen that you can see is one of the first things that we actually, the first visual message, if you like, that we put in front of clients. And it's very, very true. A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. And everybody in the Elite Traders Club has certainly taken many, many steps along the way. And when you think about it, that first step in taking the Trading Plan Plus course over 2 days, it's a fairly big step. It's a bit of a leap of faith in the presenters, in what you're wanting to do. And hopefully at the end of the 2 days, you're thinking that you're going to learn something new and you'll come away inspired and, start heading in the right path. And a lot of those 2 days that you spend with us is really about challenging a lot of those pre-learned ideas. The first day, hard work. There's a slide from the Trading Plan Plus workshop. All the topics that we get through on that first day: share trading mechanics, entry and exit orders, CFDs versus shares, what are they, how do they work, the mechanics behind them. So we spend quite a bit of time going through those basics there. And then second half of the day, we start to get a little bit more into trading methodology. So the importance of having a trading plan, talking about different styles of trading, what our objectives are for our trading, which is obviously very important. Our periodicity, so what sort of time frames are we going to be able to stick to? What do we really want to be able to do? And that's probably one of the first learning difficulties a lot of people have, is what they anticipate that they're going to be able to do compared to what they are actually able to do. There's a bit of a disconnect there sometimes. So that's usually the first little obstacle that people have got to overcome. The whole concept of demand and supply, and thinking about the market as a bigger entity, if you like, and thinking about the forces at work in there, I think is really valuable visual image to have when you're thinking about what you're looking at on a chart. Understanding that price action is the result of the interaction between demand and supply in the markets. It's fairly obvious when you've heard about these things and you sit back and provide a broader context for it. But for a lot of people, the first time they hear that, it certainly challenges the way that they've been thinking, particularly a lot of people who traditionally have been more fundamentally based in the way that they might view the markets. We then talk about the importance of a trading plan and the absolute necessity to be consistent. Now, I go through some different metaphors, different examples of the importance of having a trading plan, and really it gets down to, if you've got a trading plan that's been well constructed and it's simple to follow, if things start going wrong, then it's generally a lot easier to try and work out where those difficulties have been. So a well-constructed trading plan is certainly a must and really important. And I think, those of you who've been through the Trading Plan Plus workshop, have been in Elite Traders for 1, 2, 3, 4, however many years, would certainly, I think, agree that a trading plan is really, really important. Day 2 of the Trading Plan Plus workshop, again, more hard work. It's hard work for the participants. It's certainly hard work for the presenter at the end of the 2 days. I'm absolutely exhausted. But certainly, on the second day, it's where it really all starts to come together, putting the pieces together. It's a little bit of a jigsaw puzzle. You've got all sorts of different thoughts going through your head. A lot of people's eyes start to spin at the thought of, how am I ever going to do this? It's a totally new way of doing things. So now you're talking about peaks and troughs and long-term peaks and short-term trends, getting all these things in alignment. I've got to work out where to place my stop, so I've got to talk about ATRs, all these things that we've never even thought about before. And it certainly can make people a little bit frightened. Those who are on the other side of the spectrum come away thinking, well, look, certainly there was a lot to learn in those 2 days. It was challenging, it was hard work, but I've kind of got a little bit better idea of some of the things I should be doing. I'm not quite there yet, but maybe there's a little bit more in this and I need to take the next step. So that's what we obviously encourage us and provide other avenues of education. Obviously, Elite Traders Club is one. As I mentioned before, the Elite Investors Club is another. And really, it's all about establishing a sense of community, if you like, having a place where you can all get together, where you can listen to some coaches, some mentors along the way to help you provide a little bit of a link between yourselves, a broader market context, and your peers. Really important slide, again, straight out of the Trading Plan Plus workshop. And I think it's important to think about this with your investing. Focus on the journey, not the destination. Joy is found not in finishing an activity, but in doing it. And I think you're only going to be able to do that if from time to time you give yourself a little bit of a break, you sit back, you refocus, have a look at how far you've come, how far you've progressed, what you know now compared to what you knew 12 months ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago, and think about what may have happened if you knew some of this material a little bit earlier. And I think once you start to do that, you really start to value your learning and your journey along the way. And sometimes because we become so preoccupied with the markets, particularly as there's certainly a growing number of self-directed investors, that it's not always as easy as you might like to think. And it's certainly a huge responsibility and something that we've got to be able to cope with and get used to. Otherwise, if you find that it's difficult, too hard, then you're going to give it up and you're going to go back to your old ways. So obviously, from our point of view, we really want to see clients developing, no matter how long that takes, but just giving it the adequate time to see the progress that I'm sure can come everybody's way if they provide, enough effort on the other side. The Elite Traders Club, obviously, the whole context here is about community, the weekly webinars, coaching calls. If you haven't used any of your coaches, absolutely, it's something that you need to do, even if it's just to have a conversation about the markets, about how things are going. You might be all over the risk management side of things. You might know the strategy backwards, as an example. It's just good to hook in and have a conduit, if you like, a point of contact, because they're invariably going to be along the way little bumps, and having some people that you can lean on a little bit, even if it's for a little bit of moral support or just to keep you grounded or focused on the process, I think is a really important aspect of any trader's journey. And I know myself, I have a number of people that I value their sense of feedback, the sense of belongingness, and keeping my own investing on track as well. So it's certainly a pretty lonely existence when you're doing it for yourself, and you've got to remember you're all out there in your own homes, etc. You don't get to go to work and talk about these sorts of things, whereas at Elite Wealth we do. We get to do it on a continual basis. Some of the things that you've learned, your portfolio management, really, really important. Who would have thought 2 or 3 years ago that you'd have an understanding about advanced concepts like value at risk, market profiles? When is the market risky? When is it more conducive? When should we have most of our capital at work in the market? When should we be withdrawing some of the capital? When should we be sitting on the sidelines? And one of the sessions at the Academy this year is going to be discussing a different portfolio risk model. Again, keeping it really, really simple so that clients will get the benefit of having a very easy to interpret methodology for when we're in low risk and when we're in high risk, without quite so many changing parameters. Your understanding of risk, individual risk on individual stocks as an example, particularly those of you in the trade in the US, you think about risk over there. At the moment we're going through earnings season and it's particularly a volatile time. Sometimes those announcements that you get through earnings season can be great, for your stocks, and sometimes they can be terrible. So having an awareness of those sorts of things, how to actually calculate your risk on each trade and across your portfolio, again, these are sorts of things that your typical retail mum and dad investor don't typically have a very good understanding of, and particularly their exiting methodology. So certainly a lot of things there that over the last few years you all would have benefited from. You've learned a bit about a charting package in Beyond Charts. Certainly the good thing about Beyond Charts is that it scans very well. It is a bit clunky from time to time, but certainly it's a tool. There are other tools out there, and at this point in time, Beyond Charts is, it's certainly out of 10. I wouldn't give it a 10 out of 10. I'd probably give it about a 6. It's functional for what we do. It certainly helps us to visualise what's going on in the markets. It's a little bit difficult to use, but certainly as a tool in producing an output of results, scanning results, it ticks the boxes there very, very well indeed. So a number of things there that you've learnt. You've also had to learn that Beyond Charts program as well. So certainly the learning continues. The poor old mouse here with the cheese. This is a little bit like the investor who starts off and the first time in the market, no sooner do they get their portfolio complete and the market turns around and starts going the wrong way. So they really probably need to have a bit of a crash helmet on. Some of the things that you're going to learn through being persistent is obviously everybody makes mistakes, and particularly when you're doing this for the first few months, first 6 months, certainly probably hopefully not more than the first 12 months, is when you're making some mistakes. And you need to learn from those mistakes and think about, well, why was it that I made a mistake? Was it of your own doing, or did you actually follow all your rules and it was just something that the market did that caused the result that you weren't quite expecting? If that's the case, then the important thing is that you're following your rules. You're not always going to get a favourable outcome, but it's really important that you keep things as simple as possible. You might find that you've made a few mistakes over and over and you're not too sure where you're going. Again, you've got a community here, you've got a number of coaches here whose sole job is to make sure that you understand your plan and give you the best chances of succeeding. When you do fall over, what have you learned? If you dusted yourself off, is there something that you could be doing better? The really important thing, and it's a bit like the mouse here with his helmet on, is that he's not giving up. Because if you keep putting one foot in front of the other and you keep making sure that you don't make the same mistakes twice, then over a period of time, the amount of mistakes you're going to make are going to become less and less. You're going to become very proficient at managing your trades, which really at the end of the day is going to determine your success or failure as an individual investor. So certainly trade management is really, really important. Patient. Are you patient or impatient? Again, it's another challenge. A lot of people are very impatient. They think, and it's probably the way that we've been programmed, there's a lot of things in the media, on the TV, and whenever you see the markets, there's lights flashing, there's people screaming out, and everything looks like it's happening at 100 miles an hour. And that's pretty much the way people expect things to proceed, 100 miles an hour. And typically a lot of people when they first start out are attracted to short-term trading. Short-term trading, we can make more money in a short time, so therefore we can compound it and make more money. It is a difficult thing, short-term trading. In a volatile market, which we have, and it doesn't look like anything's going to change anytime soon. And so again, the challenge for ETC coaches and for yourselves is to find something that's going to work for you, that's going to deliver a profitable outcome over the longer term. Some of the things you need to think about too, how have your habits changed? What are you doing now? What are those habits that you've currently got? Do they serve you well, or are they still being a little bit problematic along the way? It's very easy from a coaching point of view to tell who's at one with their investing and trading just through the language. And I think it's something that if you've got a good level of self-awareness, you can become better at, certainly on the patient side of things. Be patient. A lot of your best trades are going to take a little while to unfold. If there's anything you can improve on, what is it? Write it down. If you don't know how to address it, give us a call. A context. The old cat there with the shadow, thinking he's a lion. And maybe that's the way that this cat thinks about himself. I think it's important and a big challenge when you first start investing to be very honest with yourself. Be brutal, because if you're not, you're really on a path to self-sabotage. You're shortcutting your learning and the value of your lessons along the way. It's certainly not easy. Trading's never easy. It is difficult, and as a self-directed investor, you can become quite obsessed with the day-to-day movements in the market. So you have to learn to distance yourself, filter that noise out, because it's not going to make any difference to your individual stock holdings, your portfolio, or what the market at large is going to do. So this is where, again, it gets back to having a plan that's easy to follow, and helps you to just focus on what you need to do. And that is basically make sure you manage your capital, make sure you follow your plan. The rest of it is really up to the market. And so if you've got the mindset that allows you to do that, and you're being honest with yourself, then you're going to find that you're going to have better outcomes as time goes past. But it's certainly not easy, and it takes a little while. So again, think about some of your current investments, some of your current trades. How are they going in light of what the rest of the market's doing? Have you changed the way in which you pick stocks? Are there certain criteria now that you look at absolutely before you put your hard-earned money into the market? When the market's going the wrong way and the price of the stocks that you're in is going the wrong way, do you get out automatically when your stop losses have been hit? Or do you give it another chance and say, oh, look, I'll just give it one more week? These are questions that you need to be able to ask yourself and be very, very brutal and honest. And you will know whether you're answering those questions correctly or whether you're kidding yourself. But you certainly do need to be humble about things and making sure that you're following your plan. Progress. We love hearing about stories about how people are going. We had a lovely email in from an Elite Traders Club member. In fact, I think she's an Elite Investors Club member the other day, and just saying how much she had developed over the last 2 years. And whilst she wasn't following necessarily the strategies to a T, certainly valued the sense of community, the sense of understanding, and the learning along the way, and that in itself had made a massive impact on the way that she viewed the market, so much so that her portfolio, which had been decimated during the GFC, was now back to where it was at that time, which is a great result, and earning around about 15% per annum. So obviously doing very, very well, but again, continuing her level of progress. And that's what ETC is all about. It's what EIC is about. It's what Elite Wealth's about. It's what the Academy's about as well. Sense of community. Continue to expand your learning along the way. Pick up some books. Challenge yourself. What do you know? What are some things that you'd like to know? But importantly, I think that second last one, reward yourself as you go through. If you've been following your trading plan, irrespective of the outcomes that you've got, give yourself a reward. Acknowledge the fact that you've dedicated yourself to becoming better at this particular skill set, if you like, along the way. It takes a while to develop the skills, and if you're developing along the way, then hey, reward yourself, treat yourself in some way. The other side of the progress thing I think is really important is having confidence in your ability. You've learnt a lot. The skills that you've acquired over the last couple of years will stand you in good stead for the rest of your life. Whether you realise that or not, I don't think a lot of people do. I know certainly that having the confidence, my own sense of confidence in being able to read a chart, to interpret the chart in a number of different ways has benefited me hugely. Understanding of risk management, allowing the markets to do what they need to do. I have no impact, even though I can read a chart really, really well, and understand trend and relative strength, the tenets of demand and supply, nothing's going to have an impact on my trade other than what the market dictates. So in one sense, whilst having a skill that I can, apply to a chart, it doesn't give me any better chance of the end result from, just throwing a dart at a board, other than my ability to be able to manage the trade according to my plan. And if you've got a simple plan that allows you to do it in a very simple way, then you're not going to monkey around with it, and you're not going to self-sabotage and undo all the good work that you've done along the way. So I hope these concepts that we're talking about are making sense, because it's really important that you understand the journey that you've gone through, some of the obstacles along the way, and I know everybody's had them. You wouldn't be human if you hadn't had some lessons along the way. But I think it's important to acknowledge the fact that what you've gone through, where you are at this point in time, and what you've learned. So hopefully you're all feeling, some of those thoughts as well. So really just wrapping up today, think about where you've come from, where you started, what you've learnt, some of the behaviours that serve you well. If you've got some behaviours that aren't serving you well, write them down. Let's talk about them. Are there any elements of the trading plan that you're still not 100% on? Let us know. That's why we're here. Stick to the plan. Have faith that if you follow the rules, and hopefully over the last 3-4 months that you've seen that we've endeavoured to try and make the rules simpler, they will even become simpler. So they will still have absolutely every element of robustness, but we're just adding a few different ways of making things simpler as we proceed, and I'm sure that will help everybody achieve even better investing outcomes. All right, folks, that's about it. Has anyone got any questions they might like to ask at this point in time? 27 minutes. None at this stage. Hopefully everybody's reflecting and thinking about what they've learnt up to this point in time. The market's been very volatile over the last few weeks. Certainly I look at my own portfolio. I've got about 10 stocks in it at the moment, primarily in the Australian market, and they're all holding up. Some of them aren't moving too far, but given the broader market context, still holding up really, really well. So that's an important concept. Question from David. Some new changes. Yeah, look, David, some of the changes that we make, they're not going to be significant. They're still going to be conceptually the same as what everybody knows up to this point. Just the way that we explain them and use them on a weekly basis will be a little bit easier, that's all. But great question. And thought that was very helpful in reassessing my position. Again, it's something you've got to do when you're involved with the markets. There's constant noise. And if any of you have ever been on Market Watch and having a look at, I forget the guy's name, I think it's Mark Holbert, I think it is. He's a perma bear. Every bit of information that comes out of the market. This is the crash we're going to have. This is the crash we're going to have. He's been doing it for about the last 6 years. And it's just, that's kind of stuff that you don't need to pay any attention to. So any of that noise, just turn it off. Don't waste your time looking at those sorts of sites, and you'll be all the better for it. All right, folks, looks like that's the end of the questions. We'll have on Friday, don't forget the macro analysis session with myself and Jeff, and then we'll have the weekly analysis session on Monday. Keep an eye out in your inboxes for some information about the Academy. We've still got a couple of spots on that if you'd like to come along as well. And a reminder, the Elite Funds Maximizer strategy, we kicked off the first month of investments for that on last Monday. So we're in 2 trades at the moment, QQQ and XHB, and will be until the end of the month when we perform the next scan. All right, folks, that's it from me. Enjoy the rest of the week, and we'll talk to you again very soon. Bye for now.